Okay, now I finally got it sorted. Okay, wow, this has been a disaster. So why don't we? So I guess none of my audio was coming across. So why don't we go ahead and just restart what this is for all of my millions of subscribers? All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into a restart of this. All right, welcome to the movie spreadsheet, and this is the Sunday live edition right now. What is the movie spreadsheet? The movie spreadsheet is something that I created really two different inspirations for this at one time. One was that I was a high school teacher and I got asked to sponsor a high school film club, which was essentially just watching movies and discussing it. And like, this is my bread and butter. This is what I love to do. I love watching movies and I love discussing movies. And I'm also the type of person that if I like the movie, it doesn't matter how uncool or unpopular or what it looks like. Like, I will say I like it, and if I don't like it, and no matter how cool or unpopular it is, or popular it is, I'm gonna say I don't like it. Like Dune 2, I hate. I've been roasted by multiple students because like I don't like Dune 2. Um, but at the other end, like, I really like the Suicide Squad, or I really like the Monkey. Like, so that's what the spreadsheet kind of like originated from, was this need of how do we compare movies against each other. And then the other thing was that I was slowly descending into madness, and as I had just had my second son, or not my second son, my second kid, my son, during like right before COVID. So it was like we were really going crazy, my wife and I. So I was staying up late. I was watching movies. I had to stay up. He would only sleep on me or on us, so he had to be on you at all times, which was fun. So I'd be watching these movies, and then I made like these videos, like reviewing movies. And then it was a few months ago. I had a friend that was like, "Oh, it's cool. Like, do you have any of those videos?" And I showed him one, and he was like, "You should do this more. This is pretty cool. This is pretty fun." So, I'm not expecting anything big to come of this, but I think this is kind of like filling that hole that I have right now in essentially like not being a teacher. I stepped away from teaching after a 15-year career to try to move into like a different aspect of education that would really let me work with students in a different capacity. So pretty excited for that, but I miss those conversations, and I'm hoping that I can grow this community enough to be able to have like a weekly movie assignment that we can then discuss and rate and discuss like what our spreadsheets look like. So let me just quickly plug my spreadsheet and why it's so important. And you can see it up here on the background, and you can see there's 395 movies on it. It goes all the way down. And let me just quickly explain like everything that's on here. This is linked in the description below, so you can absolutely just go peruse it yourself. I would love for you to make your own spreadsheet where you track your own movies. And the thing that I'm really curious about isn't so much that overall score. What I'm actually really interested in is like your individual categories and how you see movies, right? So like I see movies like I really, entertainment is 50% of the overall score. I want to be entertained when I watch a movie. I think most people do. But where it gets really interesting is that those next three or four categories varies from person to person. And I haven't been a high school history teacher, and then I taught this awesome class called History Through Film, in which I replaced textbooks entirely with movies, and then like we discuss what we see in the movie and if it's accurate or if it was good. What was really cool to see is how other students view movies differently. Like some had like lasting impact, rewatchability, historical accuracy, sound, music. So there's all these cool components, and then when we were having these conversations, like I remember watching Interstellar and somebody rating it low and somebody else rating it like really highly, and then we looked at like what were his components. Like almost half of his components were sound, music, like visual effects. And so because of that, you're like, okay, I can see how you can get that in from Interstellar, and that's the amazing conversation. It doesn't end up being how can you give this movie a 6.5 or a 7 or whatever. It ends up being how can you give this like what were your categories that led it to this score. The conversations are pretty sweet. So that's where I would like this to go. I'd like you to create your own spreadsheet, and I'm happy to help you do that. And then start filling it out and then discussing movies. Now, that was a lot, so let me take a breath because I'm going to be here for an hour. Okay, Mariners just avoided a home run there. Gonna get my heart broken, anyways. All right. Now, what's really interesting about um, my kind of new push, and I've had this channel for I would say 6 months, And what I've really tried to do over maybe not 6 months, maybe like a year, over the last year, what I've really done is I've kind of been non-committal with it, and I haven't really found a flow for it. And I did some reviews, but I didn't really like reviews. I don't like being super critical of movies. Like what I really want to do is I want to help you figure out movies that you should watch. And I love recommending movies to people. And obviously everything is spoiler free because like spoilers ruin movies. And so what I started to do is I started watching a lot of movies, and I just recently started making shorts reviewing those movies to help you determine if that movie is essentially worth your time, or like what could you expect from that movie going into it. So then, being the divergent thinker that I am, I was like, wait a second. We have all these streaming services, right? Like in my house, we pay for every single streaming service. And I think like if we actually looked at how much we spent on all these streaming services, it would be like extremely, extremely shocking at the cost of these streaming services and essentially like what you get for them, right? Like that's the big thing is like, am I getting what I pay for? So I started thinking about like, wow, well, what if I was on like a limited amount of money? Like I'm unemployed right now, like I'm just back in school taking some courses, but like if I had to cut, my budget from what it is now to $30 to $50, how would I spend that? What would be the best use of my time? Where would I get to watch the best movies? And so what I decided to do was like, wow, let's look at the streaming services. Let's put them in a competition to see what streaming services have like the best movies consistently. Like which streaming services has like the best new movies. So born from this is the Streaming Cup. And if you're like race cars, I don't really like race cars. Like that's cool. There's so little to do with race cars for this one. The only component is that I'm just looking at the way that the F1 gives points out to races or to performance and finishes is the exact same way that I'm going to do it for this, right? So like what I want to do is I want to reward these companies right here with points based on how they perform on essentially a bi-weekly basis. So you get every 2 weeks, I'm going to watch a movie from each of these streaming services. I'm going to put them against each other. Then I'm going to tell you that like which streaming service like had the best week. Then over the course of the next few weeks and few months, we're going to see what streaming service is consistently outperforming the other streaming services. Where is the value for your money? And hopefully I get some followers and we're able to, not even followers, hopefully I get some people in here and we're able to have discussions and the chat becomes active and this thing grows and we're having conversations about best movies from each of these streaming services each week. And then hopefully like, we're watching movies together and all that amazing stuff. So that is kind of the cold open. I think it was supposed to be 2 to 3 minutes. So I went way over that. But let's get into the point system and how this completely works out. So I'm going to go over my streaming grid, and again, this list is provided for you. It's all linked below. All my tabs are there. You can see everything. So here are the rules for what I'm calling like the streaming grid or the streaming cup or whatever. So one is I'm going to choose one movie each 2 weeks from each streaming service, and like this was really a struggle for me because obviously we have Disney, we have HBO and Prime and Peacock and Netflix and Apple TV, and there's so many Paramount, there's so many streaming services to choose from, and what I was really looking at is like Disney, for instance. Like, should Disney be included? Should like Cinemax be included? Should Stars be included? Should like Showtime be included? And so what I essentially did was I excluded some of those bottom ones because their subscriber list is really low, and I chose the top 8 for subscribers standalone services essentially. So that's what I've done. Those are the 8 that I've chosen. You can see them represented by the cars right there, but you can also see over here my rules. So one movie each 2 weeks from each service. Points awarded for position each week. So you can see right here, if you finish first, you get 25 points, and you get second, 18. And this kind of goes all the way down and kind of explains like the points for each of those things. There is a bonus point, and this is going to tie into F1C, which is kind of fun. There's a bonus point for the shortest film. So if you are the shortest film of the week, like we'll call that like your quickest lap. Like that's awesome. You get a bonus point. So if you're like if you're like a bad movie and you don't want to end up with 0 points for the week, you could, if you're the shortest movie, like you pick up that point. And there's also a point for converting a pull to a win. This is going to be F1 terminology, but basically the way that it's going to work out is that each week the team that's in first is going to have to go first the following week. And if them going first, if they are able to choose, if their movie rates the highest and they were the first choice, they'll get an additional point. So it's converting a pull to a victory. Now, the reason why this is important is may seem kind of like, wait a second, why do it in this order? Because it's a disadvantage to go first, right? So like if I chose Netflix first, which I did, like that's your window to choose a movie. Whereas if I chose like HBO, that gave HBO an extra week to release a movie. If I chose Amazon Prime, it gave them an extra couple days. So there's a disadvantage in going first each week. The movie must be a newer release that week if available, right? So I can't go on Disney, and this is going to be a big problem that Disney has, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the Disney category. But I can't go on Disney and be like, okay, I'm just going to watch like my favorite Marvel movie. No, it's got to be a new release each week or the last new release. So I ran into the issue with Disney this week because like the last new release was from like 3 weeks ago, which is like, that's not great if you're Disney and you're trying to bring people in by watching movies, which you're probably not. Again, your position is determined by your overall score on the movie spreadsheet. And what that simply means is if I watched a movie and it gets a 10 versus the other movie that gets an 8, the one that gets a 10 is higher. And so the movie will also appear on the spreadsheet. And again, that's just linked on the bottom. So you can see these are all my movies here. And then streaming grid is this specific Sunday night kind of like look at. And then the grid is determined by, I put reverse here, and now I realize that I don't want to put reverse here. So I'm just going to change that to the grid is determined by championship order. Simply meaning if you're in first, you have to pick first again the following week because that gives you like a huge disadvantage essentially. Okay. So that is a lot going on with the introduction to the streaming grid. I will update this each week. So yeah, and I might make some new rules, and if somebody wants to make a compelling argument for like why Stars should be included in here or why Showtime should be included in here, even though you can't buy Showtime, you have to buy Paramount and then add Showtime onto it. Like I'm happy to have those conversations, especially with Stars. I'm happy to have that conversation, and make it 9 on the grid instead of 8. Okay. So quick breather, little break. How we doing? I don't even know how long I've been going for. There's no kind of time up here on my clock. I can see it actually going for 21 minutes, but I think like 10 of that was complete microphone failure, so that was fun. Let's go right into, now watch this. I'm pretty pumped for this, okay? I see what happened. Yep. I know. I gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I see what happened. I got this. We want to make sure that we add. which is always fun. Okay, so I know for a fact my sound is working again. Megs, give me a yep. Shout out to my wife for just sitting in the chat and just telling me when I'm making mistakes. Essentially, super helpful. Not being sarcastic at all. So okay, so here's what happened. I was here and I was like, okay, now watch how sweet this transition is. And I clicked here, and then all of a sudden my mic went off because of the audio mixer situation, which I fixed because I'm a genius. But thanks, Megs, for telling me it's not working. So The Woman in Cabin 10. Let's talk about this movie. This is Netflix selection for the streaming wars. Now look, Netflix is going to be like Ferrari, right? Like Netflix is going to be a big name, like it's the first streaming service. We expect them to be putting out movie after movie, and at the price of $17.99 per month. Okay, that's a lot of money. Price is $17.99 per month for your payment. That's a lot. We're expecting to get some value out of that. So yes, $17.99, a lot of money. And what do we get? We get Women in Cabin 10. So Keira Knightley, murder mystery, on a boat, rich people. Like, okay, it kind of sets up like a little bit like Triangle of Sadness, except it's not funny. Start is solid, and then end, and then middle is kind of like, okay, like what's going on, and then end is just not it at all. So what I really found for this movie, and I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet. I'm going to make sure that you guys can see my scores for The Woman in Cabin 10. Wow, we got 4 movies with women in it. That's crazy. This is the third best one. All right, so Women in Cabin 10 we see right here. Here we go. It's highlighted. So Women in Cabin 10, entertainment 7. I mean, I did like it in the fact that it's only an hour and 25 minutes, which is my shortest movie of the week so far. Achievement of goal, though, doesn't get it done for that murder mystery, like thriller. It really just doesn't work for me. And really, it's that ending you can see there. 3 out of 10 for an ending of a murder mystery. I think the whole point of the murder mystery is that the end is solid, and this one was not. This one's actually really poor. Length, again, hour 25 minutes. I love it. We get into it, we get out of it, but it's just a little bit slow. And then also like the murder mystery aspect of it wasn't there. So overall score 5.85, which is like okay. I think for some of these streaming services they would take a 5.85, but for Netflix it's like that's probably not good enough, especially not at $17.99 a month for HD, or like I said, for what was it, $25.99 for 4K. That's a lot. We should be getting a lot for our money there. So that's the first one we're really going to look at. Okay, that is The Woman in Cabin 10. I would say, hey, look, if you're into this movie, if you're into like the thriller movies, you want something short, you want something that maybe you can even second screen, like this is probably going to be fine, and it's totally second screenable, which is crazy to say, especially for like a thriller murder mystery. So that is The Woman in Cabin 10, and that's the entry for Netflix. All right, let's talk about now, watch this, Play Dirty. And I definitely feel like I nailed the audio on this one. I know the audio is transferring over because of what I did. No big deal. Now, we should definitely discuss Amazon Prime, because Amazon Prime might be the greatest forgotten streaming service. Like everybody has it that has Amazon. Nobody ever watches movie on it. Nobody goes into it. Nobody talks about it, right? At least like from my experience, nobody's like, you want to just watch on Amazon Prime? That's really good. No, nobody goes and checks there. Is there a reason why nobody's going to check there? Like have we stopped going there because it's not good? So let's talk about Play Dirty, which was the one that I made a decision for. There was another movie called Maintenance Required, which was like a rom-com about like a garage shop opener, which honestly I might have gone for, but Play Dirty, we got Lakeith Stanfield and Mark Wahlberg, and it's I didn't really know what to expect. And let me tell you, this movie feels like Ocean's 11, but like make it rated R, right? Like people are gonna die, people are gonna get shot. Like you're gonna see a lot of like people get shot and they like do like the shoulders getting thrown back, like It's like okay, cool. But let's pull up play dirty on the spreadsheet so we can see how we're doing. So definitely, so 6.725. So I'll put it up here behind my weird avatar that AI definitely didn't make. But what we can see from play dirty is like entertainment 7, which was the same as the women in cabin 10, except achievement and goal was a lot higher, right? So achievement and goal, for those of you that aren't familiar with the spreadsheet, achievement and goal is how good is it at doing the thing that it's trying to do, right? So if it's a kids movie, how good of a kids movie is it? If it's a crime thriller, how good of a crime thriller? If it's horror, how scary is it? If it's comedy, how funny is it? And that's kind of what I'm judging the movie on in this category. It's the brilliant, I'm going to say brilliant category that allows me to put all sorts of movies on the same spreadsheet. So like in previous iterations of this movie, Blue Jays has scored. In previous iterations of this spreadsheet, it was really hard for me to figure out how do I get horror on the same, like how do I judge a horror movie against a comedy? And then essentially there's like, well, wait a second, you just judged it on how scary is movie. Is this comedy movie funnier than this horror movie is? A horror movie is scary, and if it's not, or if it is, it will receive a higher achievement and goal score. So Play Dirty. Play Dirty is a better heist movie than Women in Cabin 10 is a thriller / murder mystery. Okay, and then ending for Play Dirty 7, it's going to be one that like has a bunch of different like paths that it can go down. And then length is too long. Length is 2 hours and what was it? I think actually an hour 59 runtime, and I have that on my next page. Just a little bit too long. It starts to drag in the middle, and I think also because of that length, what we're going to see is a couple extra twists that we probably don't need to have in this movie. But like, look, Amazon Prime, for basically it being included and largely free to most of us. Well, not free, but like we're already paying for Amazon Prime, so we get the video with us too. This was a really good movie, 6.725. So it's above average. Let me quickly just jump over to here, show you my benchmarks, so you can see how the spreadsheet is doing right now. And the spreadsheet's not doing too well right now. So we're at an average rating of 5.968. I would like that to be a lot higher. I like my average to be higher, closer to like a 6, like above a 6. Top third cutoff, so to be like in the top third of all the movies I've watched, 7.55. And that middle third cutoff to sort of be out of the bottom third is a 4.85, which is poor things. And then just a quick note on these categories, how I break down each of these categories. The first thing I ask myself for each of these is like, okay, is this like the best? If it's the best, then it's 10. So entertainment wise, entertain the whole entire time, 10. Achievement and goal, or it's not achievement and goal, sorry. Is it good? Is it like a good whatever entertainment score? If it is, it's either a 7, 8, or 9, depending on where it falls in there. Is it okay? 4, 5, or 6? Is it bad? 1, 2, or 3? Then finally, like, is it the worst at 0? So you need to know that if I get something a 5 on the spreadsheet for a score, it doesn't mean it's bad. It means that it's a 5. Don't think about these scores as being like your school scores, because a 5 out of 10 would be an F and it would be horrible. That's not what it is here. So that's the standard of the benchmark. So this movie helps bring it up after the Women in Cabin 10 just brings it down a little bit. So we have right now Amazon, a little bit higher than Netflix, but I honestly don't see Amazon as being one of those streaming services that is really attempting to be the cutting edge of be the leader in getting out these new movies, even though like it definitely could be. So that's Amazon's entry. Let's go to Disney's entry. And this is where, if I had, look how smooth that transition was. I'm getting good. Okay. Mariners are getting crushed 2-0. So my problem with Disney is it's really TV and series heavy. Like I don't know many people that are watching Disney for the movies, but we can't negate the fact that they throw out big movies every now and then, right? Like Elio is a big kid streaming movie. Like Lilo and Stitch is like a huge live action movie. Like when I went to the theaters to see other stuff, I'm like in there watching horror movies, and like there's a ton of people in the theater to see Lilo and Stitch. Thunderbolts just came out to it. Like we have the new Captain America. So like if you wanted to make an argument that Disney should be off and that stars should be on, I would absolutely hear that one. I just think like some of these huge releases, like when Tron Ares comes out, it's going to come out to Disney. Um, and in that case, I think Disney's going to easily win that week. So that's my take on Disney. I would love to hear your take on Disney if it's worthy of being included in these 8. But I think Disney's going to kind of be middle of the pack. And then also the other interesting thing about Disney is like their connection to Hulu. And so like Hulu is a freestanding service, and so is Disney. But if you like put those two things together, then you can get all your Hulu content on Disney. So you can watch all the stuff that's on Hulu on Disney. So for this one, I separated that out. So I didn't do that. So I didn't choose a Hulu movie I was pulling into Disney. I chose a Disney specific movie, and Disney's Pixar, which is obviously Elio. So let's talk about Elio, and let's talk about why I think kids movies should be included, even as like a 41-year-old who is like watching Elio, because like sometimes these kids movies are like awesome, and like usually I think I find them to be like really good. Sonic movies are fantastic, right? Like Detective Pikachu is like above average. Like their kids movies absolutely deserve a spot on this. So let's talk about Elio. Let's find out on the spreadsheet, and we can see where it lies. It lies at a 4.9, which is really low. And look, one other cool thing about the spreadsheet is anything that has like this pink to it is going to be a link to a YouTube video where I've reviewed or I talk about that movie. So that's actually like pretty awesome. If you're like, oh, I wonder what Women in the Yard's about, boom, you can go there and listen to Women in the Yard. So let's talk about Elio after a sip of water. So Elio's about a kid whose parents die. Like, thanks Disney for another parent death. Parents die, and he's like essentially like trying to find his place like in the world, and like deems that his place is not of like this world and is of a different world. And then like a bunch of stuff happens, and like that's essentially like the movie. Entertainment wise, really good opening. Like I'm pretty hooked onto it early on, and then the movie just like starts to really slow down, and I'm really struggling, and I'm having a, you know, I know that I'm not into a movie when I have it on the big screen right here, in which the Mariners are getting absolutely bashed on. When I have it on the big screen, and then I stop it, and then I decide I'm going to go and do other stuff, and then I have to carry around my iPad to like each of these activities that like so I can get through the movie, and that's how I found myself with Elio. It just wasn't very entertaining. I liked the start. I liked the end. I just didn't really like that middle part. So entertainment score 4 out of 10. So we're gonna say it's on the low side of okay. Achievement of goal score here in terms of like a kids movie, I think it's pretty unremarkable. It's not like Puss in Boots: The Final Wish or any of the Sonic movies or like the Pikachu movie Detective Pikachu that I just referenced. There's a lot of great kid movies out there. Elio's not one that I'm gonna go back and be like, let's watch Elio, like I would Ratatouille. Even though like my wife like hates Ratatouille, and my kids don't really like Ratatouille either, but I'm a big fan of this movie, of Ratatouille. I'm not a big fan of Elio. Like I'll probably never watch it again. And if my kids are like, let's watch Elio, I'd be like, let's watch something else. Ending 6 out of 10. So like a mediocre ending score. I mean, like with these kids movies, like they're all gonna have this kind of like ending that is like heartwarming and makes you think, and is like, oh, okay, like acceptance, like this is great, and that Elio does that. And then length, it's really short. So yes, I'm a big fan of short movies, obviously, and this one absolutely takes the cake, with it being sub an hour and a half. So overall score 4.9 for Disney. Disney's gonna really run into trouble, I think, in future weeks, because they just don't put out as many new releases. And so like with Elio's the last one, but if I have to do another new release, then it could end up being like I have to do, Lilo and Stitch, which was released before Elio, and which, kind of makes Disney look mad because they're not putting out those new release movies fast enough. Or who knows, maybe they'll get something out in the next couple weeks and they'll have a decent run at it. So that's Elio. I would say like your kids are gonna like it. Kids are gonna like it. If you like animated stuff, like you'll probably like it. Okay, let's go to the very last movie of the week, which is the HBO one, and this is going to be the Substance and let's just talk about this movie because I have a lot of strong thoughts about it. As you can see, like where it ranks on my spreadsheet, which is like right there. We'll put it right next to like my anime character's head. Boom. So this was one of those movies where, like, when I was teaching, kids were like, "You got to go see The Substance." Like, Substance is crazy. It's like out there. It's like body horror. It's just like nuts. And I really feel like The Substance was really two entirely different movies. You know, that first half, you have, essentially like an older woman. I won't say elderly. You have an older woman struggling with like essentially like getting older, right? Which, when you're younger, it's like not a big deal. Then when you get older, you're kind of like, oh dang, like I am getting older. Like like things are slowing down. Like it's harder for me to recover from whatever. Like so. The Substance, it kind of deals with that, and I think it sets it up at the beginning like really, really well. It's got this weird cinematography and this weird filming to it, but that first half, I'm like kind of into it. Now it's a little bit slower, so entertainment here is the score is going to be a little bit lower, 5. But what I really found was, and I'm going to jump over to length because of that length at 220. It's really 220 is a long time to make a movie about this. It really felt like two separate movies. And that was my huge issue with this movie is that, if you made only the second half of the movie and you kept that tone all the way through, I think this movie would actually be like a better rating. And I think if you made the first part of the movie into a full movie and kept that tone, I think that movie would be I think the movie would be way better. I think easily north of 7 into that top third. But what I found you get here is like a really disjointed movie that I don't think really worked well together. And while you have the seriousness of the first part, the second part made no sense. And there was like a bunch of different answers. There's a bunch of different questions that were never answered. I left this like being like, what? Like, how is this getting so much attention and so much like praise? Because for me, it just didn't really work. Now, I know a lot of people like it and like body horror. This one just wasn't really for me because of those two different parts. So Substance, entertainment 5, achievement of goal like 7. Okay, like body horror, it definitely exists. There are some scenes in here that are super uncomfortable, like the when you see like the staples along like her spine, it's just like yikes. Like it makes me feel kind of grossed out. And then just the ending was just awful. Like I hated this ending. Like when I give something a 0 for ending, it is bad. And then I also took half a point off as a penalty for some of the things that we saw in like this movie. I think a lot of it again had to do with that ending. So overall score here for The Substance was a 3.75. And look, like this is HBO. Like HBO is, if I had to equate HBO to like a F1 team, I would say HBO is Red Bull. Like HBO is consistently getting good movies. They're consistently putting movies out. And, I think if I only had, as of right now, if I only had the opportunity to pay for one of these streaming services, I think, and only watch movies on it and only watch new release movies on it, I think it would be HBO would be the one that I would choose. So overall score here for The Substance, a 3.75. Let's now go to the streaming grid spreadsheet. So I'm going to jump back here to set this scene over here. And now we can see how the streaming grid shapes up this week. And so here's what we're looking at. So we have from Netflix, which I watched on Monday, we have The Woman in Cabin 10, 5.85. So it's currently the shortest movie. So right now it's like in position to potentially pick up a bonus point for like the shortest movie, the quickest lap, we'll say. Amazon Prime, it currently has the highest rated movie as a 6.725 for Play Dirty. Then comes Elio as a 4.9 with a 127 runtime, so really, really quick. And then finally we have The Substance at 214 runtime with a 3.75. And that's what we're looking at for the week in review of these movies. Now, I've got 4 more movies to go the next week, and then next Sunday when I go live, hopefully without all the hiccups, I'm going to take a bunch of notes on this one. what we're going to look at is how do these movies essentially, how do these other 4 streaming services factor in? And now look, this is where this is where I would love to have an audience, like obviously, but this is where I would love to have an audience, because I would love to like run things by you at this point when I make some of these decisions. And so like right now, the decision I'm trying to make for Paramount is really, do I watch The Naked Gun? Which I've been told by multiple people, this movie is awful. You don't need to watch it. It's really bad. Don't essentially see it. Like as like a don't go there, don't see it type warning. So that's kind of like that first thing is do I take their advice, or do I like end up like watching The Naked Gun? It's also really short, which is awesome. There's also another horror movie which is escaping me right now, but there's another movie on Paramount which is not as short, so I wouldn't pick up that point. So if I did The Naked Gun, I think I would potentially pick up a point for The Quickest Lap, and I wouldn't get a 0, which is like phenomenal, which is great, right? But there's another movie, and it's a horror movie, but it's more risky because horror movies have not an amazingly high ceiling and a ridiculously low bar. So that's potentially what I'm looking at for The Naked Gun, and whatever, I'm just gonna put random horror movie in here. I think Dakota Johnson's a Dakota Fanning or somebody. Dakota is in the movie. So that's what I'm trying to decide right now. And if I had somebody in the chat with me, they would be like, "No, you should watch the horror movie, or you should watch the Naked Gun and whatever." And then Hulu. Hulu's going to be, I think, a little bit tricky too, because they're not also not getting like the biggest movies. They kind of get like a little bit older movies. So their new releases are going to, I think, also be strange. I think Peacock could be the winner of this entire thing, because Peacock consistently gets new movies week after week. It's somewhere like Megan 2, but I think Peacock just got like How to Train Your Dragon. So like, if I watch How to Train Your Dragon with Peacock, and then that's going to directly put it up against Elio, in that kid genre. And finally, Apple TV, right? Like if Apple TV releases F1 this week, then like I don't see anybody stopping Apple TV from taking the points this week. But we'll see. So that's where we're standing right now for the week. So I've got 4 movies down, 4 movies to go. So next up is going to be Paramount Plus, then Hulu, followed by Peacock, and then Apple TV. And these all need to be done by this time next Sunday, when I review the movies and we figure out like how the point breakdown shakes out, and then who is leading after essentially like round 1 of the streaming cup. Okay. Let's go ahead and end this. How am I going to end this? Well, I think I need to have a preview, so I've already had my preview. I like stay tuned for something from Paramount, Hulu, Peacock, Apple TV. And what I want to hear from you is that if you were streaming from each of these services, which ones would you choose? Like if you had to choose a new movie from each Paramount, Hulu, Peacock, and Apple TV to try to knock off that 6.725 score, what movies would you choose? Now, it's not a new to streaming movie. So if it's like 2023 movie gets put in, no, I'm looking for 2025. And the newer release or the better. Which ones are you putting in here to potentially knock off these movies? As of now, HBO will turn around and will choose first because of where it sits on the list, which is honestly really good for HBO, because like Weapons comes out on Friday, and I've done a review for Weapons already. So yes, let's end with, I want to hear what movies that you would pick from this. If there's any questions that you have, or you leave a message in the chat, I'll answer them next time. Stay tuned for my streaming shorts, which come out. Basically, I watch a movie, and once I watch a movie, I go ahead and I put it on. I make a short for it real fast, under a minute, spoiler free, and just kind of give you like my take on if it's worth your time, if it's not. And then finally, let's also go ahead and talk about my Friday reviews, which is every movie that I watch this week. So some movies that aren't in the streaming grid. This week, you can see all the movies that I watched this week. Tron Ares in Dolby Digital, Superman, The Woman in Cabin 10, Friendship, and Bring Her Back. And you know what? I would love to just end with, let me just end with a little tale. So just so you guys know who you're dealing with, I want you guys to get to know me. Let me tell you, like, I hate going to the theater. And I think, one thing is really clear is if I only had $30 each month to spend on a streaming service and I could tolerate going to the theater and it fit into my schedule, then that $30 would 100% be spent on AMC A-List. 4 movies a week. I get to see all the new stuff, essentially free. You bring in your own water bottle. It's amazing. Done. That's what I would do. But when I went to see Tron Ares, and the movie started a little bit earlier than I thought it was going to start, so I walked in a little bit like late, which was like a huge nightmare for me. And then I saw it in 3D, so like I had my glasses, and then I had to put like my other 3D glasses on top of my glasses. So like this is what it was like. You guys will enjoy this. I was like two glasses on top of each other, and it was just it was an absolute nightmare. And it started to give me a headache, and the guy took a burrito out of the microwave, and I was like, I'm gonna throw up. So I left, and I went to Dolby Digital, and it was just amazing. And let me just tell you, if you're thinking about it, if you haven't seen it yet, Tron Ares is a movie you need to go see in the theater. It was awesome. Other movies I watched Superman, I watched Friendship, and I watched Bring Her Back, which is one of the most messed up movies that I've seen, and I really don't like it. But I digress. That is all I have for you guys tonight. Thanks for suffering through this one. I'll get better each week, and I will be back each week to do these live streaming, to these live streaming update wars, and give you some more of the spreadsheet and all the data that goes behind it, and hopefully you can send some questions, send some comments, and help me choose movies from each of these streaming services so we can get a good representation of who is outperforming the other ones. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for checking out the movie spreadsheet, and I'll catch you in one of these other videos.